One of the things that I want us to take note of is common challenges I've seen with implementing Lean Six Sigma into industries, processes, no matter what they were, revolving around, my experience in banking, manufacturing, hospitality, insurance agencies. These are common challenges I've seen with implementing Lean Six Sigma. Sometimes, it's not just the organization that's resistant to change, it's the people, right? They don't embrace the change. And oftentimes there's a lot of confusion that goes around when you're creating change. Sometimes people don't understand the purpose or the why or what's in it for me. Um, we talked about the Cotter model earlier on and how we can apply that to create a sense of urgency to reduce that resistance to change. Like, hey guys, we need to fix this process, and here's a systematic way of doing it. We talk about in Lean Six Sigma at the very beginning in that define phase that project charter really helps us understand our process. And when we can understand our process, we can demonstrate that to our stakeholders. And not just their stakeholders, but the people that are on the front lines that make Six Sigma change happen. I've seen a lot of lack of leadership support, meaning that, leaders want to change the processes, but they are oftentimes removed from the situation because of the fact of their everyday responsibilities. This is why I say you need at least a master black belt in the organization or a continuous improvement specialist that is constantly driving that team to operational efficiency, right? And as leaders, we have to focus on leading the organization. And sometimes you can't lead an organization and also change it at the same time. So institutionalizing and putting in a hierarchy of Lean Six Sigma professionals is key. Everybody from the ground up should be trained in some basic Six Sigma philosophy. Even this course that you guys are going through right now, sharing this with others can give them insight into Lean Six Sigma and give that basic understanding and approach to it. From lack of leadership, that leads us to lack of expertise, which, ultimately is because of lack of training. The biggest two that I see are lack of training and communication amongst an organization. And we see this as a way of improving the organization, and when we provide proper onboarding techniques and we can set expectations, or we often call it the definition of done, these common challenges lead to organizational issues, right? So inadequate training and expertise is often the time. That's why I say, like, if you're creating a Kaizen event and you're improving the process, you need to have at least a master black belt facilitator helping you guide your process, or a minimum a black belt. The training and expertise, training is going to come from our staff. A lot of times we have inadequate training because we don't have proper SOPs, which leads us to our next point. When we talk about poor communication in an organization, oftentimes a lot of our issues and the challenges that we have can be, essentially reduced by creating better communication in an organization. When we're able to effectively communicate with people, this brings us the ability to grow and lead people in the way of leadership, driving organizational success and operational management. The next thing that we talk about is something called scope creep. And essentially, scope creep is when people get through the life cycle of the project, and then towards the end of it, you start seeing that not a lot of work was done in the earlier phases, and it starts to creep into the project. And then that's where you have a lot of delays in your process, or we didn't anticipate this, the finances of it, and I need to get more money for our process. Another key common challenge I see in organizations is essentially how do they measure success? How are you measuring your success as an organization? Which benchmarking techniques are you putting in? We talk about Walmart versus Target in our live Lean Six Sigma sessions, and we talk about that benchmarking approach to measure success. This probably isn't in here, but a lot of the ways we can measure success is looking at the impact, the cost of poor quality, the cost of error reductions, right? Setting little goals along the way is how we're going to be able to sustain that success, but also measure it effectively. The next thing I see is lack of resources, whether that's staff, equipment, software, outdated machinery, and a lot of times the lack of resources oftentimes lead to the common challenges we see in Lean Six Sigma implementation is they just don't have the resources to make it happen. And maybe it's not maybe lack of resources, but mismanagement of direction of those resources. A few key things that I want to talk about and common challenges is going to be data challenges. Collecting that data is oftentimes ambiguous because, there's not a whole lot of guidance on that from professionals. Sustaining that improvement is also, a key point that they often, organizations fall through is they'll get to a new level. And then oftentimes when that person leaves, it wasn't documented properly or it wasn't managed properly. And then it reverts back to maybe even a worse baseline than what was happening before. One of the bigger issues, I guess not bigger issues, but one of the last issues I want to leave you with on common challenges is going to be system integrations. I talked about this in class, but one of the companies I worked for a couple of years back, this is 2024, so this is probably like 2018, 2019 range. They were still working on an operating system of Windows 98. Now, close to 22 years, roughly. How is their system going to integrate? Well, just the fact of the matter, it wasn't. So overhauling an operation and changing it is sometimes better than sticking with what you have. Oftentimes with the advancements in technology, we can find new approaches, new AI methodologies to reduce the operating errors that are oftentimes happen from, human error. Overall, these common challenges or common mistakes, common issues are often seen through a variety of organizations, no matter if you're a Fortune 500 company or a small mom and pop shop. These are common challenges and obstacles that we have to face every day as professionals and organizations. We can use the DMAIC system to create a framework for change. Now, change is not easy. It's not going to happen overnight. And sometimes you're not going to see immediate results from your change. When we look at these common issues and we bring awareness to it, we can improve the issues in our own organization because we can take these common issues and, use them as a transition to improve our own organization, because I guarantee you these mistakes are somewhere in your organization. Maybe not all of them, but there's going to be some common analogies in this process. So in conclusion, we can use Lean Six Sigma philosophies to improve our organization and drive operation efficiency. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this little segment on case studies and common challenges in organizations.